What is going on? It is Alex coming back at you with another video, and today we are breaking down CBS's brand new 2024 NFL mock draft. If you are new, feel free to like, comment, subscribe. You guys know how to use YouTube. Below my face is my board. It is ever changing, so TBD on everything being finalized because nothing's finalized till the last bit of tape is watched. Below that is all the great ways to get involved in the community, as well as take advantage of our two sponsors, UnderDog Fantasy as well as Olipop. My two favorite brands on planet Earth. Feel free to use those codes, make yourself some money, save yourself some money at the same time, and have a good time. Let's get right into this. I'm going to be doing a little bit more heavier on the mock this week. That's why probably the past couple videos have been mock because I actually am consulting for a brand new football league coming to Texas next year called the Texas Football League. So we've been doing 10 to 11 hour days. And I need to have a shorter form content for you guys because that's probably one of my biggest weaknesses is planning ahead. I like to do content like same day. And so I want to be able to give you guys some very informative content. I just dropped my receivers video. Feel free to watch that. Lots of hate because I love Johnny Wilson still, and that's okay. I have a differing opinion. Maybe it's stupid, but at least it's honest. So we'll see what happens with that. But feel free to go watch that. 49 minutes of breaking down 16 wide receivers in the class. Shout out to Roman Wilson. Really do like him, but this is just a super duper stacked receiver class. So he was wide receiver 17. Good player, though. So let's jump right into this. Let's have a good time. Starting out with the number 1 overall pick with the first pick. Shout out to them. We got Caleb Williams going here. I would do a mock then what, but honestly, when it comes to sites that I don't really trust the validity and are more so for the clicks than anything, it makes it almost not very useful to continue it for another round when the first round's already kind of messed up. CBS is more for fun than anything, but Caleb Williams will be the number 1 overall pick. There is some anti-Caleb sentiment now because that's just the draft cycle. People get bored of one narrative, switch to another. By the draft time, they'll switch back. It's okay. Caleb Williams is a phenomenal prospect. Justin Fields, great player. So the Instagram thing is just a bunch of BS. I honestly quite like the way Justin described it. Like, I'm on vacation, don't really want to see work. Technically he doesn't follow any teams on Instagram. That's fine. I mean, yeah, there's some stuff that's going on in the news. I'm sure that there is something more than him just unfollowing it because he's on vacation. But, still, I think we're a little bit overanalyzing. I hate doing the social media analyzation part because that is honestly what creates divas who do very passive-aggressive shit like unfollowing teams just to get attention. Justin Fields, I never got that vibe from. So, I don't know what it is, but Justin Fields, I do believe, will be on a different team next year. And Caleb Williams will be the new leader of the Bears. I think he's as talented as Justin is right now with a much higher ceiling. So, than what Justin has already proven out. Like, I think Caleb's processor is cerebral, and that's something that you take a bet on more than anything. Pick number 2, you got Jayden Daniels. I've heard a lot of rumors that Atlanta is going to make a big trade up, and the question is, will a team be willing to trade back? I would love to see, this is a live reaction, I would love to see what the Commanders are going to do with this trade back. I swear to God, if it is a quarterback, I will lose my shit. But if they end up getting an offensive tackle, like, I just think that when you don't have the highest wins above replacement positions, like, technically quarterback is the position, but when you look at offensive tackles, they don't really have anything right now. I mean, the left tackle, they don't have that locked up. So they don't have left tackle, they don't have right tackle, they don't have either edge rusher either. That's an issue. So Commanders, like, when you don't have 4, technically some people believe 5. I have still faith that Sam Howell could develop into the guy for Washington. But when you don't even have 5 of the biggest positions to target, I don't think you're going to solve it with 3 solid value picks and free agency. I just don't have faith in it. So Washington is one of those teams that I do believe should trade back, but Jayden Daniels is the selection there at number 2. If I'm the Falcons, I'm moving up, and I'm actually going to go balls to the wall. I don't know if Jayden's my type of guy. I think Jayden, even though I do have him as my number 2 quarterback, like, if I want to go balls to the wall, I'm going to go for the guy with the highest ceiling in terms of the overall throws. And Jayden has some beautiful balls. That's why he is my quarterback too. Like, I do have faith in him. But the ceiling is there with Drake. I'll just put it that way. So Jayden Daniels, though, goes at number 2. I still think that's a very, very good option for Atlanta. Pick number 3, Marvin Harrison Jr. goes to the New England Patriots. I need to move Marvin and Malik up my board. Him and Malik at 9 and 10, that's not respective of where I think they are at the moment. I'd probably put them above Joe Alt and Olu Fashanu at this point. So they're about like 7, 8, maybe even up above Terry and Arnold. But I love the corner class. So it's not really a shame on Marvin and Malik. It's more so just showing y'all how much I do love Dallas Turner, how much I love Tali Fuaga, Terry and Arnold, and Ennis Rakestraw. Those are kind of my guys this year. Marvin Harrison Jr., phenomenal prospect, though. A little bit on the slower side, even though technically he's clocked 22 miles per hour. I'm glad that he's gotten on 1 rep to get extremely fast. You got to play at a particular speed, and he doesn't play at an extremely fast speed. So that's my only knock on him for the most part. This year did have a regression in terms of drop rate, went from 3 to 8%. He was at 8% the year before, so he kind of regressed towards where he was. We'll see what happens, though. Marvin Harrison Jr. is kind of a can't-miss prospect. I just don't know if the ceiling is there for him to be the number 1 receiver in the NFL, but I do think he could be like one of the best in the league. Pick 4, the Vikings move up to select Drake Maye. I think this is a smart move from the Cardinals if this were to happen. If Drake Maye's on the board, I think the Vikings also get extremely aggressive. So smart move for a team that is absolutely screwed in terms of the cap. Y'all's deep dive will be coming out this week. Joe Alt then goes to the Chargers. This is for sale, according to Daniel Jeremiah. So this probably will end up being Jayden Daniels or Drake Maye, depending on what team trades up in the real draft. Because I think they are going to try to establish the run with Tali Fuaga. I just have that strong sense that the Chargers are going to be the team to draft him. So we'll see what happens there. Joe Alt's still a great player. I prefer Tali Fuaga. He is higher on my board, but also he's a native right tackle. So I don't really... I understand Joe Alt is viewed as the best tackle by most people. Apparently not CBS, because I think they have Olu Fashanu as their one. But, I mean... I don't like the idea of moving tackles left to right when there is an extremely talented player at the position you want to target. Just saying. Pick 6, you got Malik Neighbors out of LSU. Malik is almost tied with Marvin Harrison Jr. He is half a point away from being the number 1 wide receiver. So it is really that close. Dude's an absolute game changer. Still developing overall. Needs to be a little bit better at blocking, but who really cares? He's a great prospect all around. He's a true wide receiver 1 on a team. And this team's been pretty desperate for one. Pick 7, you got the Titans going J.C. Latham. They actually have been in the mood for a right tackle as well as a left. I'd prefer to just still target Olu Fashanu at this pick or Tali Fuaga, whichever one that they think is better. But J.C. Latham is a solid player. I'd probably give this a B because I think there are 2 tackles that are better, but they do need to go offensive line. So at least they did it. So Washington trades back and they get Olu Fashanu, so probably a good amount of draft capital as well, which is going to be great for them. So now you got 1 out of the 5 positions handled, and in my opinion, a middle ground quarterback, even if you think Sam Howell is not going to have the ceiling of being a top 10 QB in the NFL, a top 15 quarterback behind a great line with a great defense can get to the Super Bowl. That's what Jimmy G did. It's what Brock Purdy, even though I do love Brock, he could consider him a top 10 QB. But, that's why they're consistently dominating in the playoffs. Well, to be fair, they almost lost to the fucking Lions. I don't know what's up with that. But a team that has a really good defense, a good O-line, and even the Niners don't even have that great of an O-line. But you saw Jared Goff with the Rams. You can tell that offensive line, like winning the battle of the trenches, is slightly more valuable on a standard basis, unless you have a superhero / alien at the quarterback position, it is the more valuable option. So Olu Fashanu is honestly, in my opinion, this would be the ideal situation for Washington. At pick 9, oh my God. Steelers trade with the Bears. So last year, the Steelers and Bears already were talking about a trade for a move up. I think for Jalen Carter, by the way, that was the rumor before the draft. If Jalen Carter were there at the Bears pick, the Steelers would trade up. Then I saw the Bears trade. You guys can actually go watch the whole first round. I saw the Bears trade that pick, and I thought the Steelers moved up for him. And then my heart shattered. You could see the pain when I saw that happen. It hurt. It really hurt. But we still ended up having a kick-ass draft, so that's perfectly fine. But J.J. McCarthy to the Steelers would break my heart. It's not, there's no JJ McCarthy hate. It's just as a Steelers fan, I don't think he really elevates the roster this year. And you need to have somebody who has at least a short-term impact because TJ Watt's not getting any younger. He's in his prime. By the time JJ McCarthy, which in my opinion will be 2 to 3 years down the line, is ready, the defense is already getting out of its prime era. And you need to take advantage of it now and not later. So that's why if let's just say Russell Wilson comes to the Steelers or Justin Fields, I think those guys would have a much better outcome. Even if JJ McCarthy in the long run is a better player, I think those two guys would be the more beneficial player for the Steelers. Pick number 10, Rome Odunze goes to the New York Jets. They're looking for a wide receiver too. If you don't want to go Tali Fuaga, Rome Odunze is your guy. He technically is tied for my wide receiver 5, and he's 0.5 points away from being my wide receiver 3. My grading scale is just very focused towards route running and release packages. If I'm honestly debating adding in a red zone category, but it's going to be very hard to quantify. But if I actually had a red zone category, Rome Odunze would be hands down my number 3, potentially even my number 2 or number 1 receiver in the class. This guy, if you are looking for someone to be your go-to guy in the red zone, there's nobody better than Rome Odunze. So glowing praise for Rome, even though statistically, because that's what everybody apparently only looks at, is not as high as some people think. So great player though. Unbelievable player, especially in the red zone. Pick number 11, Cardinals trade back and get Nate Wiggins. It's a little bit early for me, especially when your second round pick is within striking range of a good corner. But, there's a lot worse picks that could be made. Nate Wiggins is a very smart corner, fits again in defense. Pick 12, we got Dallas Turner here. Ended up having a tape study with him with y'all on Discord, so feel free to go and join us there. Right now, working out the finer details of building the memberships out because I actually do have the all 22 tape studies recorded there, but some of them are already being taken down, and we love that, don't we? But Dallas Turner is a phenomenal prospect. We ended up clarifying that he's essentially a worse version of Micah Parsons, kind of a hybrid with Hassan Reddick. So glowing praise right there. I think he needs a mentor for a year or two. I don't know if the Broncos would be the best destination for him. Terrion Arnold then goes to the Raiders. Just a super high floor guy with an unbelievable ceiling because he's super smart, very versatile. You're going to find a great role for him in the future. This team needs to just hit on good prospects. Tali Fuaga goes to the Saints. That's probably the best pick you can ask for. At pick 15, we got Brock Bowers going to Indy. I mean, because of the chain of events before, Brock Bowers is here. Of course, there is that question of value in terms of money, like how much money you save compared to paying a top tight end. It is worth bringing up, but Brock Bowers probably could be the best tight end in the NFL. So you're not getting the average of the top 10 salaries. You're essentially looking at the number 1 guy right there. Jared Verse then slips to the Seattle Seahawks. He actually slipped down my board a little bit. You can see that he's there at 14 on my board. Might be slipping down a little bit more as well. I thought he was a little bit out of shape this year. So, I think that it was a bit concerning. He looked a little bit hefty, a little bit slow off the line. But honestly, one of the things that surprised me, he's one of the best run defenders I've ever seen at the edge rusher position. It's not like he's 275. He's 260, which is a good size, but it's not someone who's a formidable opponent. Bottom line, I think the Seahawks would be very welcoming to Jared Verse. I just don't think that my initial expectations of Jared Verse kind of dropped a little bit when I did see how he was a bit more sluggish. And I think that is something that could have been, fixed as the year goes on. Easily could be fixed in the NFL. He's still my number 14 player. I think he's going to be great. But needs to get that explosiveness back that I saw at the end of this year as well as all of last year. It's concerning when the player is not the same player throughout the year. Maybe it's an injury, but he did look a little bit larger. It was noticeable. There was something off. So I don't know what's up with Jared Verse, but I think that might be the reason he slips to the middle of the first round. Great player still. Pick 17, Cooper DeJean goes to the Jacksonville Jaguars. I think at this point, going after a versatile, high power corner, potential safety transfer as well, because I think Cooper DeJean should be a safety. But regardless of how I feel about that, he's going to be a really good player. You're going to find a good role for him, and he's going to be a great player for you. Fractured his leg in November. Apparently, it's only a 6-week turnaround time, so he'll be back. And, it's not a bad choice at all. Not a bad choice at all. I think that maybe I'd go a couple other routes in terms of more physicality at corner or go offensive line, but again, it's not a position I'm not going to knock this pick. Pick 18, though, Marius Mims goes to the Bengals. As a Steelers fan, hurts me to not see Broderick Jones and Marius Mims, but I think this is the best move that Cincinnati can make. At pick 19, Kool-Aid McKinstry goes to the Rams. A lot of hate on Kool-Aid because he doesn't have that recovery speed, but the one issue I've honestly had with him is taking reps off, but the way that he bounces back from poor reps after taking them off shows that he has the potential to be the best corner in the draft, and he was the entire year. But 6'1", 195, I hope that he proves to have increased his athleticism over the offseason, and we'll see that very, very soon. Jackson Powers-Johnson goes to the Bears. Bears traded back and ended up getting the best center in the draft. I think that's honestly a sneakily smart move, is to move back and still get Jackson Powers-Johnson. I just think he might be gone by pick 16 to the Seahawks because he just feels like a Seahawks kind of guy. But if the Bears can pull this off, very, very smart move. Very smart move. Chop Robinson then goes to the Dolphins. I think Chop, that was actually the video that got taken down. A couple of them got flagged for copyright, even though technically I've been given the rights to it by the owner. And that's a conversation for another day. But Chop Robinson, we did a tape study on him. Just pretty underwhelmed, to be honest. And I've been a big supporter of Chop, since he started falling down people's boards. I think he has a ton of talent, but the dude's probably 2 to 3 years away. And not in the Travon Walker 2 to 3 years away where there's an instant impact as a really good run defender and a pass rusher 2 to 3 years down the line, which, by the way, he had 10 sacks last season. So he's doing even better than we expected. Chop's going to be 2 to 3 years away from starter viability. That worries me. And in the one game where he really needed to show up, which is Ohio State, he got injured, which really, really sucks. So, that was the one game that I think would have translated. I think Chop should have returned to school and then given Penn State a real shot for a championship run. At pick number 22, the Eagles get Quinion Mitchell. So someone who's been able to play off coverage, smart enough in zone, good in with his physicality. I think that'd be a solid fit for a Fangio defense. I personally think Ennis Rakestraw Jr. might be, apart from Terry and Arnold, the best player for the Eagles in the draft, but that's because I am a big Ennis Rakestraw guy. I was a big Joey Porter Jr. fan last year. He's my number 2 player in the draft, so I know I got a lot of hate on that. Granted, I've had Isaiah McGuire as my number 2 player in the draft for a small period of time. So, you win some, you lose some. I don't think I'm going to be losing some on Ennis Rakestraw. I'm debating putting him and Terry and Arnold up at 3 or even 2 because based on positional value. Regardless, I love those guys. I think they would be the better fit, but Quinion Mitchell still would be a great choice. Pick 23, Jerzon Newton goes to the Texans. Don't know what's going on, but a lot of teams seem much lower on Jerzon Newton than what his gameplay shows. I just don't get it. Maybe there's a personality error there. Maybe there's some injury issues that we don't know about, but there's something there because the talent on the field is number 13 overall on people's board. I don't get it. He's undersized, but this defense in a 4-3 base can handle someone being 300 pounds and just an elite block shedder. I really don't understand what's going on, but Jerzon Newton's a great player. Excited to see what he does in the league. Hopefully it's not injury-based. Maybe it's just a fluke of personality that ends up being washed over. And then a team like the Texans get to be rewarded for a player with that talent. Troy Fautanu then goes to the Dallas Cowboys. One of the positions I don't think that would be a position I'd go for is left guard. And that's where I think Troy Fautanu will end up. Unless you want to kick Tyler Smith the tackle, which you could. But I thought that, I literally said when Tyler Smith's going to get drafted, I think he'll be a Hall of Fame guard. Same thing with Tevin Jenkins, to be fair, but Tevin Jenkins just hasn't been healthy, which is one of the reasons he fell in the draft as well. But Troy, short arms, I just don't think he's going to be a true left tackle. So I'd be going Tyler Guyton at this point. Pick 25, Tyler Nubin goes to the Packers. I don't think he's going to test very well. He was really underwhelming to me, and I'm someone who I really wanted Tyler Nubin to be my number 1 safety, and he fell down my board quite a bit. So, they're saying he's not going to run a 4.2, but he'll make plays on a routine basis. I hate to say it. Yeah, there's players who make plays who are not super duper athletic, but it's not that he's going to run a 4.2. It might be that he runs a 4.6. That's the issue. He's very immobile, and that worries me. You could be as smart of a player as you want. The NFL is just way too fast, and unless you are that cerebral of a mind, you're not going to be able to play at that high of a level. I still think that he has a chance to have a really good role in a team, but I think his role is severely limited based on the fact that he's just not athletic. Pick 26, we got Keon Coleman. He's my number 3 wide receiver. Hate to say it, but I really, really like him. People don't like that, but that is what it is. They say you can't separate, but I don't know what people mean by separation. What, is he not going to run a 4.3? He might run like a 4.48. I think, honestly, people are underrating his speed. This dude was able to run 50 yards down the middle of the field with DBs chasing him for a touchdown. You don't think that guy has speed? Interesting. All right. So I just think Keon Coleman just has a little bit too much prospect fatigue at the moment. Great build, 6'4", 215. One of those guys who is a 50-50 catch threat, but great after the catch. I don't think people factor that into the equation. And honestly, a very underrated route runner. One of the issues I have with him, and I have had with him since Michigan State, he needs to improve his release package. I thought being near Johnny Wilson, who is one of those guys who's one of the more intricate route runners, intricate release package guys in this draft, in the whole entire nation for that matter. I was hoping he'd learn a little bit more, which is a slight concern, but the overall game, I mean, people were saying, oh my God, if Keon Coleman's not going to the top 10 of your mock draft, you're an idiot. And all of a sudden, if he's anywhere near the top 5, so pipe down, y'all. Like, I know that's definitely not all of you, but there is that very loud minority that does push down the thoughts of people who are like, he's still a good receiver. Like, nothing really changed. He got hurt in the middle of the year and then still was able to make some good plays. He's a great receiver. Stop having prospect fatigue. It's okay. I know we get desensitized a little bit, but you can't make a highlight reel play every single day of the week. He is still a top 20 player for me, and he's going to remain that way. Hate to say it, but I really like Keon Coleman. And you know me, I've been critical of Keon Coleman too. I just got to put that out there. Like, I play both sides of this fence, and Keon Coleman ends up being on apparently the good side of the fence for me. Pick 27, Latu. Latu goes to the Cardinals. If you end up getting out of this draft with Wiggins and Latu, I would count that as a win. Short arms, really, really, really good technician. I've seen comps to Aiden Hutchinson, which, to be fair, both these guys are kind of unblockable. I don't think he has a lower body strength of Aiden Hutchinson, though, because I loved Hutch. Hutch was my guy. Latu still is at number 26 on my board. I think the dude's great, and I think it's very hard to have that type of skill. But the NFL tackles have better skill as well, and I think you need a little bit more than skill to get those to get the sacks. So have some concerns there with Latu, but at pick 27, this is a home run hit. Brian Thomas is here at pick number 28. I really like Brian Thomas. He's my number 9 wide receiver, but he's literally 0.75 points away from being wide receiver 3. That's why I developed a tier system exclusively for Brian Thomas, because he literally is the same tier, in my opinion, as Keon Coleman, who is technically my wide receiver 3. Brian Thomas just plays a different role, and he's not an elite route runner. He's getting there, but he also doesn't have a great release package. Dude's fast as all get out, and he's going to have a really good role in this NFL, and I think this might be the best role for him. I think the Chiefs might be a better role, but he's going to be a great receiver. I think that this is a very good fit, and I really like Brian Thomas. Got to put it out there. Mike Samer still goes at pick 29. That's a big stretch. This is honestly this is the first pick I genuinely don't like. I love Mikey. I really do. I think he's a great, great asset to a locker room. And he is a Dan Campbell guy. Loves to hit, high energy. He reminds me a lot of the personality of Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. But he played DB 2 years, has no clue how to play zone coverage by any stretch of the imagination. Like, he's completely lost in zone coverage. One of the worst zone coverage corners I've ever seen. And but he's really solid in man, in my opinion. He really is someone who I love. I have him as a top 70 player. But in the first round, to get a slot corner that is not nuanced in the game at all, This is essentially the cherry on top to a team, not a foundational piece of a secondary. So no disrespect to Mikey, but in the first round, I think we all need to be a little bit realistic. He's literally 106 on their board. Like, we need to be a little bit more realistic. Mikey is not the type of guy you take in the first because he's also older too. So he's, I think, 24. So it's not like you're getting a young buck either. Then you got Bo Nix to the Patriots with a trade up. I think this is a smart move for the Patriots. Bo Nix times Marvin Harrison Jr. I'm a fan of it. At pick 31, you got Tyler Guyton to the Niners. Finally, they actually have it in the right order. That's going to be as good of a pick as you can ever imagine. Dude with unbelievable untapped potential being paired up with Trent Williams. That's the dream. And then at pick 32, you got Byron Murphy to the Kansas City Chiefs. If you don't get a good receiver at this spot, Byron Murphy is one hell of a consolation prize. He's the best defensive interior in the class. Super young at 20 years old. And if you bring back Chris Jones, my God. You might say it's like, oh, not the pick that you want. You'll realize it's the pick that you should have wanted. That dynamic duo would be ridiculous. I highly doubt Byron Murphy even gets out of the top 20. But if he does, I wouldn't be surprised to see the Chiefs go up and get their guy. It might not seem like the best move in the short run, but in the long run, you will see. You're essentially going to get an unblockable defensive interior with Chris Jones and Byron Murphy in the short run. And in the long run, you're getting another Chris Jones. Win-win, in my opinion. So that's going to be the video. Thank you so much for watching. See you on the far side. Peace.